I moved to a new city for a job and needed to find a place to live quickly. Desperate and on a tight budget, I turned to Craigslist to search for affordable rentals. That's when I stumbled upon a listing that seemed perfect, an immaculate one-bedroom apartment in a desirable neighborhood at a price that was too good to pass up. The ad had clear photos of the apartment's interior, and the description sounded promising. I reached out to the supposed landlord, a woman named Karen, via email. She replied promptly, explaining that she was out of town but could send me the keys and lease agreement if I wired a security deposit and the first month's rent. Feeling a bit uneasy about wiring money to someone I hadn't met, I requested a video tour of the apartment to verify its condition. Karen hesitated but eventually agreed. She sent me a pre-recorded video that showcased the apartment's interior, which looked exactly as pictured in the ad. It seemed legit, so I decided to go ahead with the transaction. I followed Karen's instructions and wired the funds to her. She assured me that the keys and lease agreement would arrive within a couple of days. However, days turned into weeks, and I still hadn't received anything. I tried contacting her multiple times, but she stopped responding to my emails. Growing increasingly anxious, I decided to visit the apartment in person. When I arrived at the address listed in the ad, my heart sank. The apartment complex had a completely different name, and the manager had never heard of a tenant named Karen. My worst fears were confirmed. It was a scam. I contacted the local authorities and filed a police report, but the chances of recovering my money were slim. I was left without a place to live, out of a significant amount of money, and feeling violated by this Craigslist rental nightmare. Frustrated and disheartened, I decided to share my experience on online forums and social media to warn others about the dangers of Craigslist rental scams. To my surprise, I received numerous messages from people who had faced similar situations or narrowly avoided falling victim to scams themselves. One woman shared a story about how she had almost fallen for a similar scam but decided to do some research first. She reverse-searched the images from the rental ad and found that they were stolen from a legitimate real estate website. This discovery saved her from losing her hard-earned money. Another person messaged me about a Craigslist job offer that seemed too good to be true. They were asked to provide personal information and pay a fee for a background check before starting the job. Thankfully, they became suspicious and didn't proceed. My Craigslist rental nightmare became a turning point for me. I became an advocate for online safety and educated myself on the common signs of scams. I learned to trust my instincts and not rush into transactions, especially when dealing with large sums of money or personal information. In the end, I managed to find a legitimate rental, but the scars from my experience with Karen, the fake landlord, lingered. It was a hard lesson, but it taught me to be vigilant, cautious, and proactive when navigating the online marketplace world. The moral of the story is that while Craigslist and similar platforms can be useful for finding various services and opportunities, they can also be a breeding ground for scammers. Always take the time to verify the legitimacy of the people you are dealing with, and if something feels off, don't hesitate to walk away. Your safety and financial security should always be your top priorities. It was a chilly autumn evening, and I was on the hunt for a new bicycle to replace my old, rusty one. Craigslist had always been my go-to platform for finding second-hand deals, and this time was no different. Little did I know that this particular transaction would become a nightmarish experience etched in my memory forever. I stumbled upon an ad for a high-end road bike at an unbelievably low price. The pictures looked pristine, and the seller, who went by the name Mike, claimed that he was moving and needed to get rid of it quickly. Excitement coursed through me as I imagined myself zipping down the streets on this sleek machine. I reached out to Mike, and he responded promptly, agreeing to meet at a quiet park near my home after dusk. The idea of a clandestine evening exchange intrigued me, and despite a nagging feeling of unease, I decided to proceed. My eagerness got the better of me. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the park, I arrived at the designated meeting spot. I noticed a man standing near a dimly lit bench, silhouetted by the faint glow of a nearby lamppost. Mike. He appeared friendly enough, but something about his demeanor felt off. Nevertheless, I pushed my apprehensions aside, attributing them to the eerie atmosphere. I asked to inspect the bike, and Mike handed it over without hesitation. It was indeed a beauty, just as depicted in the photos. While I examined it, he started making small talk, inquiring about my riding experience and future cycling plans. It was all pleasant chit-chat until the tone shifted abruptly. Out of nowhere, Mike started insisting that I should ride the bike right then and there to get a feel for it. Alarm bells rang in my head. It was pitch dark, and the park was almost entirely deserted. His insistence was unnerving, and my gut told me to decline. I politely refused, explaining that I preferred to do a test ride in a more well-lit and public location. Mike's demeanor changed instantaneously. His friendly facade vanished, replaced by a menacing glare. He demanded that I pay him immediately, his tone now laced with aggression. Panic welled up within me. I wasn't about to hand over my money in this situation. Summoning every ounce of courage, I told him I'd changed my mind and didn't want the bike anymore. With a threatening growl, he snatched the bike from my hands and bolted into the darkness. My heart raced as I watched him disappear, my dreams of a new bicycle vanishing with him. I quickly dialed 911, and the police arrived shortly after. They took my statement and assured me they'd do their best to track down the thief. However, weeks passed, and there was no news. I realized that I had narrowly escaped a potentially dangerous encounter. Mike's true intentions that night remained a mystery, but one thing was clear: Craigslist could be a breeding ground for perilous encounters, and my trust in online transactions would never be the same again. This haunting experience served as a stark reminder that caution should always prevail when navigating the murky waters of online marketplaces, where anonymity can give rise to the darkest of intentions. It was a chilly winter evening when I decided to sell my vintage record player on Craigslist. I needed the extra cash, and I thought I'd find a music enthusiast who would appreciate its beauty and history as much as I did. Little did I know that this decision would lead me down a terrifying and bizarre path. A few days after posting my ad, I received an email from a potential buyer named Alex. He claimed to be a collector of vintage electronics and expressed keen interest in my record player. He was willing to pay the full asking price, no questions asked. Though it seemed too good to be true, I was excited about the prospect of a quick and easy sale. We agreed to meet in a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, clutching the record player in its ornate wooden case. Alex arrived precisely on time, a tall man in his 40s with a disarming smile. He seemed polite and well-spoken, which put me at ease. As we sat down and discussed the record player, Alex's demeanor began to change subtly. He grew increasingly fixated on the item, running his fingers over its smooth surface and examining it with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. His eyes never left the record player. I hesitated but decided to proceed with the sale. I needed the money, after all. Alex handed me an envelope filled with cash, and I handed over the record player. As he walked away, he turned to me with an unsettling grin and said, "You'll regret parting with this, my friend." I tried to shake off the strange feeling his comment gave me and went about my day. However, that night, I received a series of anonymous text messages. They contained cryptic messages and eerie photographs of the record player. It was as if someone was stalking me, watching my every move. Panicked, I decided to contact the police, who took the threat seriously. They traced the phone number to a disposable burner phone, but there was no way to identify the sender. I felt trapped, constantly looking over my shoulder and fearing for my safety. Things took a terrifying turn when I received a package at my doorstep a week later. Inside was the vintage record player, along with a note that read, "I told you that you'd regret it." My heart raced as I realized that Alex had returned it, seemingly as a sinister message. I immediately contacted the police again, and they launched a full investigation. They discovered that Alex had a history of disturbing behavior and had been involved in similar incidents before. They managed to track him down and apprehend him, but not before he had caused me months of anguish and fear. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson about the potential dangers of online marketplaces like Craigslist. It's essential to trust your instincts, meet in public places, and take precautions to ensure your safety when dealing with strangers. My brush with this Craigslist nightmare will haunt me for the rest of my life, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind seemingly ordinary transactions.